Hello everyone, this is General Haggerty. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. So last week I did a video, Global 40 Sealion, and that was to show a Germany attack on turn 3 where they take over London. And so now I'm going to try to make a video on ways that you might be able to prevent that. Because as the British player, I mean, as any player really, you don't want somebody taking your money off you, and it's going to hurt the Allies a lot if the European UK player is neutered in the game. That if they can't do anything, then Europe is going to fall quickly. Russia will be a little bit stronger, but I don't think it's enough to overcome that when you lose one of your allies like that. Because if you were to take London out, then they're not going to have a whole lot of units left. They're going to have a few down in Africa, and then they're not very strong in the Pacific side of the board, the Far East Command. So you know, UK is not going to be a factor in the game if they lose on turn 3. Even if the American player manages to come back and take London back, still, I mean, you've only got a minor factory instead of a major on London. And you've had a couple of turns where the UK did not buy anything. And also Germany has had a turn with the UK's money. So it really is going to be tough to win. You still could win as the Allies, but it's not very likely if you lose both France and the UK on turns 1 and 3 like that. So let's what I'm going to do, rather than start over again, what I did was I went back to the video and I found out, or I figured out what had happened after turn 1, after Germany's turn 1. And so just to remind you here, they moved their dudes over from Norway here. Everything is exactly the way it was after turn 1 in my last video. There's the damaged battleship in 110, and the 2 subs over here in 111. Remember, the 2 subs died over here. That destroyer killed those 2 subs over there. They took out southern France down here, and they had a tank left. They have a fighter on northern Italy, tactical bomber on southern Italy, and they did take this. They didn't strafe it. They meant to take it, and they took it. And then they also have Bulgaria over there. They just moved one dude down there and took that. And they have enough here to do sea line. They just need to bring up their 5 tanks, and there's 3 artillery down there. They just need to bring them up here to Germany and or West Germany, and then they've got all these dudes here and these dudes here, and they bought a couple more dudes as well, and so they have enough, or they were going to buy that many on the second turn. They have 71 IPCs. So what you need to do as the UK player is make it so that they decide not to go after Sealion, not to go after your capital in London. And we talked about that a great deal in the last video, that if too many things went wrong on the first turn for Germany, or too many things happened, what the Americans did, what the British did, you know, what the Japanese did. If too many things line up, then it's not a good idea to go sea line. You're better off taking all that money that you took off of France and got on your first turn and going after Russia instead. And so that's what you want if you're the Allies, is force them to go after Russia. And it's still going to be difficult. The Axis have the advantage in the game, especially if Germany decides, okay, I'm going straight after Russia now. Then that's going to be difficult as well. But I don't think you have much of a chance at all if Germany manages to take London on turn 3 as it did in that last video. So let's take a look here. This is what we had as the 71 IPCs at the end of Germany's turn. And what your goal is to force them not to spend it like this. This is what we had bought in that game. 7 transports. Now I don't care about the rest of the stuff on there. Actually, I think this was I think this might have been 2 artillery. Um, yeah, this was 2 artillery instead, but that doesn't matter. What we want to prevent is them getting these 7 transports. They can buy them if they want, but we want to dissuade them from doing that. We want them to go after Russia instead. So how do we do that? Well, step 1, let's go to the other side of the board there. Well, let's just take a quick look here, see what we have. So we still have all of the stuff for the UK that we had to begin the game, except for the ships that were in Sea Zone 110 and the ships that were in Sea Zone 111. Luckily, we have those boats over there, and things could be different than that, right? I mean, they might not have got all these ships here, and they might have got those 2 down there. We don't know, but I'm just playing this scenario as if it happened the way it happened in that last one. So let's just walk around the board there. Okay, so Germany took their turn and Russia took their turn, and they stacked some things on. And then Japan took their turn. They did not do a J1 attack. I haven't moved anything, but this is the scenario we're playing. So Japan, all they did was took on China. And they're doing that just to keep Germany's options open for Sealion. And it helps if the Japanese player doesn't do that, because then it keeps the Americans out of the war, and that's a big deal when you're going for Sealion. So what can you do? Okay, so the Japanese have gone. So then it's the Americans' turn. And I'll show you what I like to do as the Americans. I like to buy, with the 52 IPCs, I like to buy 2 aircraft carriers and a battleship. And, you know, like if Japan didn't do that, I mean, if they didn't just attack China, if they did go on a J1 attack and they attacked Pearl Harbor, then this might not be the purchase that you make. But, you know, even if they went on a J1 attack and didn't do a Pearl Harbor attack, this is the purchase that I would make, and this is what I would do with them. This aircraft carrier here would go in the western United States, and there are 2 fighters on Hawaii. So I would take those 2 fighters and I would put it on this aircraft carrier. So let's just get this out of the way. Now, the other 2, there was a fighter, here it is. There's a fighter that starts in western United States, so we're going to bring him over to the East Coast and put him on there. And we have a fighter up in eastern United States, and we're going to put him on there as well. And we're going to put these in the eastern United States. Let's just move the camera up here. So we're going to put our stuff on here. Now that's going to help the UK, and it's going to be one more strike against Germany, and whether they decide whether or not to go Sealion. We could do even more than that if we were to put the other aircraft carrier in there, but I don't like to put everything on one side of the board unless there's a reason to. If Japan went for a Pearl Harbor attack and it was very successful, they hardly lost anything, then I might put the other aircraft carrier with the fighters from Hawaii over here. It's hard to say. Like you have to play the game the way it sits. Just speculating, you don't know exactly what you could do, right? So that would be my best play, the way this game sits, if Japan didn't attack the United States or the Western Allies, put it that way. So then it comes to Great Britain, and there's different things that they could do. For as far as the Far East Command goes, India, I would probably make this purchase. I usually make this purchase. There's 3 infantry and 2 artillery. So that to me is a no-brainer. You don't get that much income, and Japan can start to limit that income as soon as they start attacking. Japan is much stronger than the UK is, and it takes the US a while to get across the water. So you want to put on as many small units as you can. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. Here's the conservative way. If you didn't take any fighters off, if you didn't take any planes off of the UK, you didn't go for the Taranto raid, then this is one thing you could do. You could buy 8 infantry and an artillery, and that gives you the most pieces that you could possibly buy. So that's one way to go. You could also buy 6 infantry and a fighter. And this one here, what we're gonna do, I bought 3 infantry, a destroyer, and a tactical bomber. Now you could buy a fighter instead of a tactical bomber. I just decided to do that because I had one IPC left over. And the reason I'm doing this is, let's move the camera up here. What I want to do is, rather than fight the Germans in London on the land, I'm going to take the fight into the water, into Sea Zone 110. I mean, he could go to Sea Zone 111 if he'd like, but then he's going to leave his Air Force out of it, right? He's only going to be able to have his ships if he goes to 111, and I'm leaving my Air Force up there. That's the RAF is staying there. It's not going on the Taranto raid in this scenario. So they're staying there, and that's going to take the fight into the water instead of on the land, and that's my goal here. And you know, it might work, it might not work. It just depends. You know, it depends on who you're playing, and it depends on the roles. Like always, it depends on a lot of things. So let's just move these aside. This is what we're going to purchase, okay? So now what do we do? If we're not going to do the Taranto raid, then what do we do, right? My goal here is, like, you can prevent Sealion no problem if you just take everything and you move back to London and you just sit there. But then what happens is, then the Italians can go nuts down here in the Mediterranean. They can get across the water into Africa, and even more dangerous for you is that they can get over into the Middle East. What I want to do is find a way of stopping Sealion and being able to employ my Middle Earth strategy. If you haven't seen my video on Middle Earth, I invite you to do that. Then I won't have to explain it too much here. But basically what it means is that I put a complex on Persia, and I start shucking dudes up from here. I build a transport shuck, and I try to get as many units into the Middle East as possible. And from the Middle East, then they can go west, they can go north, they can go east. And that's right in the middle of the board there. And so that's my Middle Earth strategy. So I want to be able to do that and stop Sealion, because really the only way that the Axis can stop the Middle Earth strategy is by going Sealion, by taking out London. If you don't have your capital, then you don't have any money to put stuff on Persia, or anywhere else for that matter. You have to defend your capital first, right? So then what are we going to do then? How are we going to defend it? How are we going to take the fight to the water? Obviously we can't go Taranto. I've looked at this so many times, and I mean, if you rolled lights out, then sure, you know, you could go after everything, and you know, in a perfect world, you'd win every fight. You'd go after Taranto and Tobruk, and you know, you go after everything, and it's no problem. But you can't play it that way. You gotta try to play for the odds. So I am going to. This will be non-combat moves. I still want to take out Persia, right? I still want to take Persia on the first turn, and I want to get this guy over here to take Eastern Persia. The one thing I'm not going to do that is normally in my Middle East strategy is take Iraq, because I'm going to have to scale back here. I have to make some choices here. I can't go after all three. Before, what I didn't do was take Ethiopia, but because I'm not going for the Taranto raid, I'm not neutering the Italians, so I've got to put some kind of hurt on them, and that means either going after Tobruk or going after Ethiopia. And I'm in this scenario, and you know, like, I might do either one. I'm not going to do the same thing every time. This time I'm going to go after Ethiopia. So let's bring the transport down here, down to this space here, and we're going to bring the tank, and we'll bring this dude here as well, and we're going to bring this dude in, and we're going to bring this down, the mechanized infantry. He can go 2 spaces, and then we have a cruiser over here, 1, 2, 3. He's going to get a landing shot in Ethiopia there, and that's our Ethiopia attack. Let's just put this pie on there. There we go. So what else can we do? Well, let's throw a couple more pies down for one thing. Here, just change that one here. we're going to take Eastern Persia and Persia, as I said, so we'll put a couple pies up there. And we're not going to spread ourselves too thin. I kind of like to go with overwhelming attacks, just more of a guarantee of taking things out, right? So then another thing we need to do is take these boats out. And it really pains me to leave 2 transports up there. We're leaving a transport here and a transport here, and so Italy's not going to be nearly as neutered as they usually are when I play against them. But you have to make some kind of sacrifice if you're going to save your capital. Because as I showed you a week ago, I mean, if Germany wants to take London, it can take London the way it was. You know, if you go for the Taranto raid and you fly your planes out of there, then there's no way of preventing it. Hang on a second, somebody's at my door. Okay, so I'm taking care of that. Where were we here? Okay, we got these non-combat moves set up and ready to go. We've got our Ethiopia attack here. Okay, so we want to take these boats out here, the destroyer and the transport. And it really pains me to leave those other 2 transports there. The Italians are going to be doing much better than what they normally do against me. But if you want to prevent Sealion, then you have to do something, right? You have to make some kind of sacrifice. So we've still got 3 boats left there. We're going to take the tactical bomber, and we're going to take the fighter from Malta, and we're going to go after those 2 boats there. I wish I could go after some of the Italian troops in northern Italy, but there's just no way. So let's just go up to the other side of the board there. It'd be a lot easier to reach if I did that. Flying over the Pacific. Okay, here we go. I got some dice here. What do we need to do? Okay, so we've got lots of planes up here now because we didn't do the Taranto raid. We need a destroyer up here against these subs, and we're going to bring a couple of fighters in here to try to take out those subs. And we're going to bring, let's move this down a little bit here. We're going to bring from C-Zone 91 the cruiser up here against the battleship. Because we don't want to lose any planes. The planes are going to be crucial in our defense of London and of C-Zone 110. So we're bringing the planes and the fighter and the bomber, and we have a choice here as well. There is a fighter on Gibraltar down there. Now you could bring that fighter up here as well and land him in London, or you could leave him there for now because we're not going with any boats. You're probably wondering why, and you'll see in a couple minutes. We're not going with any boats against that destroyer down there. So we might lose one of our planes down there. And we really need 2 planes left over in the Mediterranean because it's for the defense of that carrier. We can't lose that carrier. So I'm going to leave the fighter down there. I think that I have enough to take out that damaged battleship. If the battleship wasn't damaged, or if there was a sub in there as well, then we would be doing this differently. I'd probably bring another plane in. But I think that those 3 units there, the cruiser, the fighter, and the bomber, is going to be enough to take care of a damaged battleship. So let's just roll this now. This is all the attacks we're doing. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 attacks. 1 attack in Ethiopia, and the rest are in the water. So let's do this one here first. We've got a destroyer and 2 fighters. Okay, so a destroyer, miss, and 2 fighters, 1 hit, and we have 2 subs which fire at 1 or less, and that's a miss. So we lose 1 sub. Okay, so we have 1 destroyer again and 2 fighters at 3. That's a hit, and we have a sub. It would really be nice to hang on to that destroyer too. The more boats that we have as the British player, the better it's going to be for us, because that's going to give them more targets, and it's going to give us a shot at 2. They're going to want to take that out, so they're going to come at us with either boats or with planes probably, and that's hopefully we can take one of them off with that, right? It's better odds than doing it with a anti-aircraft gun because it's 1 at 2. Okay, so now we've got the cruiser, the fighter, and the bomber. So that's 2 at 3 and 1 at 4 for us. So 2 at 3, and that's a hit. There we go. And they have a battleship. It would really be nice to hang on to this as well, but oh, hey, look at that, we did it. So lucky us. So there we go. Okay, and you know what? We can see what we got down there. We've got a fighter and a tactical bomber against a destroyer. So let's just do that. That's 1 at 3 and 1 at 4. 1 at 3 missed. 1 at 4. Ooh, that's a miss. And the Italians have 1 at 2, and that's a miss. So let's try it again. 1 at 3. There we go. And they have 1 at 2, and that's a miss. Okay, so that is these two out of here, and that's good. We didn't want to lose a plane, and we didn't. Of course, we could have lost a plane there, and that would have been a drag. Okay, so down at the other battle there, I'll just show it to you, and then we'll stay up here. Actually, no, let's just go down there. Here, let me just take this down there. Might as well get closer to the action, right? Okay, so I can't see the camera, but let's just hopefully that's in the picture there. Okay, so we have a cruiser first. So the cruiser, and that's a hit. But remember, this guy is going to get to fight, or he's going to get to shoot. So that's 1 infantry off. Now we have 1, 2, 3 at 1, and 1 at 3. So 3 at 1, and that's 1 hit. And we have 1 at 3, and that's a miss. So that's 1 more dude off. And they have 2 dudes and a artillery, so that's 3 at 2, and that's 1 hit. So we take 1 dude off. Okay. Now we have 2 at 1 and 1 at 3. Oh, look at that, snake eyes. And they have 1 at 2, and that's a miss. So we were able to take that out. Now, non-combat move. Okay, let me just grab the camera here and turn it around. Try not to shake it too much. Okay, so we're gonna come over here and we're gonna take Persia. We really want to take Persia on the first turn because it would be nice to be able to put our complex on the second turn. And we don't know if we're going to be able to do that. We're going to have to wait and see what Germany purchases. Hopefully what we do here is going to dissuade them from purchasing all those transports. So we move that over. Now we have these boats down here. We're going to come over 1, 2. Actually, let's just bring the transport over 1, 2, and we'll bring a dude and an artillery. So that's going to change that. So let's just take that off, put that on. And we'll take this off. And there we go. So, more. We've got these guys down here. We might as well move those up 1. We've got this destroyer. Let's move him up 2. We've got this destroyer over here. Let's move him 3. Move him over here. Now remember, Japan didn't go. We could go. We could do a couple of things with this battleship. We could take him down to Anzac. And that would help out with the defense of Australia. But what I really would like to do is bring this battleship over to take part in the Middle Earth strategy. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Just move him as far as we can into C zone 79 there. And then next turn he'll be able to get a little further over here, get together with the other boats. Okay, so now this is where things start to come together for us. Let's just move this up here so we can see well. Okay, so we've got these 3 boats over here, right? We're going to bring the destroyer over 2 spaces into C zone 94 there. Then we're going to take the other 2 boats and we're going to move those to C zone 92. There we go. And we're going to bring these planes have both flown 2 spaces so they can go 2 more. So there's 1, 2, 1, 2 into there. So now we have a cruiser, an aircraft carrier, and 2 planes there. Now some people would advocate buying an air base and landing planes here, and that would be better protection for that, and that is true. But the thing is though, that air base is also 5 infantry you could purchase with that money. Because we didn't lose any of these planes, we're going to take this plane and we're going to move him up to London. Now, lucky for us, we shot down those 2 subs in the scenario, and that was in the Sealion video, right? So we've got these 2 boats here left. Now we could take them over to London, right? And put the things on London, but we know they're not going to attack us on turn 2 anyway. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to go 1, 2, 3, bring them down to Z zone 91 there, okay? And we're going to bring that tank and the dude down there. So what that means is, like, we've got these things down here. Now remember, we didn't do the Taranto raid, we didn't attack Tobruk. But putting these things down here is going to help us then, because Italy has got more units than they should have right now. We would like to be able to take more off, but we weren't. So we can bring these down here, right? And now if Germany does buy all those transports, well, we've still got 1 more turn where we can bring those 2 things up here that we just brought down, the tank and the dude. We can still take them up to London. If they don't, well, then we've got these 2 units down there. They can start making their way across North Africa, and that's going to help us out. The other thing we can do, there's another transport here, and we don't want to leave that transport, right? That's just that's an easy kill for anybody, for the Germans. So we're going to go with him. Now we could do a couple of things with that. We could go 1, 2 into 91. And another thing that we could do is bring down from London, because we know we're not going to get attacked this turn. We could also bring down the mechanized infantry, because he's a fast mover. He doesn't do us much good on an island except for defend it too. But he's good moving across North Africa there. So we could do that, or we could move this 1 more space. We've only gone 2 with it. We could move him 1 more. And that's something that I do like to do, try to get him around the Horn of Africa down here, right? So that he can take part in the Middle Earth strategy, and he can be shucking dudes up there. We need 3 transports. We have 2 transports here. This would be the 3rd one. That would mean we wouldn't have to buy any transports. So let's do that. Let's bring him down there. And let's bring that thing that we had there. We would have to stop there if we dropped him off there. So let's bring it down here. Then it can make its way across Africa. We don't know that we're not going to be able to bring any more units down to Africa. So this is one way of getting 3 more units down here that we might need. We might be able to hang on a little bit longer by doing this. Okay, so then up here, that was nice of them not to shoot down any of our boats up here. So we're going to move these now back into here. We're just going to move everything to London, right? Because, I mean, they still could attack us this turn. They have 3 transports, right? So we're going to make sure that we're doing everything that we can. We're going to move everything we have from Scotland and move our planes back to London there. And what else do we got here? I think that's it. I don't think we can move anymore. What I would like to do, and can't, You see these planes over here? I would like to be able to move these planes over, but without attacking Iraq, there is no place for those planes to land. The only place we could possibly land them over here is in British Somaliland, and even then, that's still, you know, like what I would like to do is have them up here somewhere, right? Because then they could do us some good here, but we can't do it though. Like if we were to land them in British Somaliland, they're still a ways away from here, you know, and all the Italians need to do is stay out of C Zone 98, and then they're not going to do us any good, right? So we're not going to move those over, and we won't move any more of those around right now. We'll just concentrate on this side of the board for the purpose of this video. So we did buy these three things over here, right? We're going to put all of that on London. So let's just move the camera up here. So let's just put this. Now I bought this because it would help out our offense, right? And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for offense against Germany. C Zone 109. We're going to put the destroyer there. And we bought 3 dudes. Okay, so that should be enough so that they can't attack us this turn, turn 2. They would need to buy transports in order to attack us up there. And that should be enough to dissuade them. With all that Air Force sitting on there, that should be enough to dissuade them. Because remember what we were going to buy over here, right? Let's just bring this over here. So what they had here on their second turn was this, and there was a couple of planes on here, right? If that's what they do, you know, if they put all this stuff here, the Royal Air Force is coming in there and they're taking that out. They can scramble 3 planes into there. Well, that depends. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. What I meant is, okay, we can put this destroyer here, and this destroyer is going to be safe, because if they only decide to bring in these 2 planes here, 2 spaces, then we can scramble 3 planes into here, 3 fighters, and we'll be able to have the advantage against them. If they decide to bring in all their planes, which they could do, if they brought in all of those planes, then we don't scramble then, and we let them take our destroyer out. But then they have to land everything here, because they won't. These things can only go 4 spaces. They're not on an air base, so they go 2 over here and 2 back. These things can only go 3 spaces, so they go all the way over here. Then they can only come back to here. They're on an air base, so they can go 5. That means that they've got no fighters or tactical bombers left in Western Germany. And if that's the case, then we come after the Navy here, because they'll have 2 planes on here, and then they also have 2 boats here. But that's it. You know, we could sacrifice our entire Air Force here, come after them, take out their boats. That's a lot of money when you add in the transports with that. If it was just these boats, then maybe you don't do that. But if they had all the 10 transports in there, that's $70. I'm coming after that. If they don't have the ability to scramble down there. So that's why this destroyer here is safe where he is, right? They can't get any boats over here. They can't come around this way because of this destroyer over here. So that destroyer is going to help out. Now, why did we do everything the way we did? Okay, so let's take a look down in the Mediterranean here. We left this guy behind because, look, there's a destroyer there. There's a destroyer and a cruiser here. That means that these boats can't hit these boats. And the fact that they're destroyers means that they can't even slide through with a submarine and try to hit these, because he can't go through where there's destroyers, right? So the only thing they can do is attack one or the other. One thing they could do is they could go for an amphibious assault. They could take this out, they could drop a bunch of units on here, and then they could bring planes down from Germany. They could bring the planes down to attack this and then land here where the Italians had taken out. But that's another reason why we've got these things here. If they're going to land planes here, they can't. One thing I would have done as well is bring this over, and maybe even this over here. And then hopefully they don't have much left, and then perhaps we can take them back like that. So they would be wasting their air force. But I don't know. I mean, it just depends. Like this is pretty specific right here. What we have left and what they have left, and it could be slightly different in the next time we play, right? So we don't exactly know. I know that they can hit this, but they're going to lose a bunch of planes if they do that. And if they lose a bunch of planes, then it's going to make Sealion much more difficult for them, and that's what we want. But really what we want is for them not to take that, right? And then the next turn, we can move these up here, right? Okay, now how do they take London? So they come in here, they can't use their boats and they can't use their air force or much of their air force in here because we've got these boats in here. Maybe we lose one. That's why we bought this other destroyer here, is so that we could bring a destroyer in. I'm expecting to maybe lose the cruiser in here and maybe lose this destroyer up here, but I don't think we'll lose this destroyer over here. But if that's the case, then we still have a few boats in here. We've got planes. We've got all. We can scramble 3 fighters, and we've got these planes. We've got an aircraft carrier that can take 2 hits. We would do that before we lose any planes, and at least one more boat that we would be doing that with. And then we've got this other destroyer up down here that we're bringing up, right? And so there you go, right? That's how you can prevent Sealion, or hopefully you can prevent them. But they could still go after you. I mean, they're still a little bit stronger than you. They could say, okay, we're gonna do it, you know, and they could grab their dice and start grinding them, and you know. But I don't know that they could take it, and you've probably done enough for them to say, you know what, it's not worth it. They're gonna take that 71 IPCs, they're gonna put it over here, and they're gonna go after Russia. I think that's what they're going to do. And so if that's the case, on the second turn, if they didn't buy 7 transports, then we still have these things down here, right? And we have this destroyer down here. Okay, let's just move to the other side of the board again. We've looked at this side long enough. So this is what happens if they don't go Sealion, which I don't think they would. If we set it up like that after the first turn, I don't think they're going to go Sealion. They could, but it's probably not advisable. Let's just take a look at this again. Like I was saying, they could attack this boat and then come in with an amphibious landing and drop a bunch of guys here. Then they could come down with German planes. But the only place they'd be able to land, they could land their bombers back there, but they'd have to land the other planes down here. So if that happens, then they don't do the strategic bombing run that the Germans did in the last video. So that's a plus for us. We've got more planes up there. We've got more boats up there. So still that's difficult for them to go Sealion, especially when you consider that they're probably going to lose a couple of planes, maybe even 3 or 4 planes going after this, right? And even if that does happen, even if the worst happens and we lose these boats, at least we've got these guys down here, right? At least we drop this thing down here, and we're going to need that, because what we didn't do is take out any Italian boats. Now they've got 4. Rather than going after what I just said, it's probably smarter for the Germans to go after that, and for the Italians to come down here and go after this. They've got 2 transports to come down. They can go in with these guys. These guys can stay back and defend against what's coming from the west. And then they could even bring their transports down and take out Syria or Transjordan and start going to the Middle East. In which case we're going to put that complex on Persia on the second turn and start piling dudes on there in the third turn. But it's going to be more difficult. So if we didn't have to go, if they spent all that money and they didn't buy any transports, that means we've got these boats here, and they're still down here. We don't have to take them up to Great Britain to Sea Zone 110. It depends on what Germany does on the second turn. If they don't do anything that says Sealion to us, then we can keep them down there, and then we can start going after Italian boats. Maybe we don't do it on the first turn though. maybe we consolidate our boats on the first turn. Like we can move them out, or we can move them across, and we can move these other boats up. It just depends. Like we've got to see what the Italians do, right? We've got to see what's left. We know we've got lots of boats down here right now. You look at all the boats that we have there. So that's going to help us out down here. It's a drag that we didn't kill all those boats, but we still have the boats. We didn't lose them in the Taranto raid, right? We may take them up there. We may somehow get them down here to Middle Earth. Or we might just trade them off against the Italian boats. Anyway, not sure if this would work. I think that it would dissuade them from doing Sealion, but we'll have to see, right? Different players will play differently. As the Germans, I don't think that I would go Sealion, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't. That doesn't mean that your friends wouldn't. You know, there's that one guy that's always been after you, right? So, but anyway, that's something to think about. Somehow keeping the planes back there and having boats down here that can still do the Taranto, not necessarily the Taranto raid, but oppose the Italians. That's what my goal is to not have to evacuate everything out of here. And I'm hoping that just doing this is enough to stop the Germans from doing what I don't want them to do. But anyway, that's what I'm looking at here. And I think that's about all I can say about that. I mean, we're going to put these guys on, and the game's going to continue from there. I can't tell you what's going to happen. This video is only really to show you where I would go on the second turn. If it's not going past the second turn, the game's going to go after that, and you're going to react to what the Germans do, what the Italians do, and they're going to react to what you do. Anyway, I don't think there's much more to tell you. So have a great day, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.